Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our STBG CMAQ workshop. My name is Heidi Besslinger, and I'm a Principal Regional Planner at SCAG. And myself and the team here oversee the STBG CMAQ programs. I have various SCAG staff attending today with me. In the room is Warren Whitaker, Pablo Gutierrez, Denise Sifford, Shane Northfield, and Anna Eichelberger. So, a few administrative reminders before we get started. We will be recording this presentation and do plan to make the slides and the recording available on the program webpage after the event. To make the best use of our time, we will primarily take questions at the end, so feel free to drop them in the chat throughout the workshop. We will not be responding to project-specific eligibility questions, primarily because so many of these conversations can be nuanced, and any of these types of questions can be directed to SCAG staff, your County Transportation Commission staff, or your Caltrans local assistance staff via email, or as part of SCAG's office hours opportunities. The program guidelines cover much of the information that we are sharing in these workshops, which are available on our program website, and we will link those in the chat as well. And now I will turn it over to Warren for some introductory remarks.
Good morning. Just a couple of really quick background notes. While the County Transportation Commissions will continue to play a key role, SCAG is responsible for the selection of projects to be funded with both Surface Transportation Block Grant, or STBG, program and Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Improvement, or CMAQ program funds. Under the SCAG process, you can expect that we will be doing a call for projects every other year. Because this is an ongoing opportunity, we encourage you all to be strategic in what you apply for. Also, please take full advantage of the workshops, including the recordings that will be posted after this meeting, and office hours as you prepare your applications. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to Denise.
Okay, to start, I think we want to just get an idea of who's joining us today. So at this point, you'll see the first poll question come up. And it's, have you or your agency utilized CMAQ or STBG funding in the past? So we'll leave that up for a few seconds. Okay, looks like about half answered yes. So again, we do realize that the audience for these workshops is varied in level of experience and involvement in these programs and federal aid funding opportunities. So today we're going to go through some background to start and general information on federal aid project management. Then we'll get into eligibility considerations, funding availability, the schedule, and we'll also spend some time discussing the criteria that's going to be used as part of the project evaluations. For this call for projects, we'll also be using an online application portal for submittal. So we will have a short demonstration of the platform that's going to be used. And lastly, we'll give a couple of updates on office hours and technical assistance opportunities from county transportation commissions, and we'll have some time for Q&A. This is some quick background, especially directed to those here today that have joined us that haven't yet had the opportunity to work closely with SCAG. SCAG, or the Southern California Association of Governments, is the metropolitan planning organization for the 6-county region. So that includes Ventura, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Orange, Riverside, and Imperial counties. Some of SCAG's primary responsibilities include the development of the Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy, also known as Connect SoCal, the development of the Federal Transportation Improvement Program, or FTIP, and as of July 1, the project selection for the Surface Transportation Block Grant, or STBG program, and the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program, or CMAQ, which we will be discussing today. Here we have an overview of the overall federal funding process. The STBG and CMAQ programs are federal transportation fund sources that come through the Federal Highway Administration. Available funds get distributed to the region by SCAG through this call for projects process. SCAG's first call for projects was completed last year in June 2024. And this workshop today will focus on the upcoming call for projects. The objective is to provide any potential applicants with information that can be used to guide decision making on whether this funding opportunity, excuse me, on whether this funding opportunity is the right fit for your project. SCAG does anticipate conducting a call for STBG and CMAQ funds every odd year. And once projects are selected and awarded funding, they must be programmed in the FTIP. This process is already conducted by SCAG, as mentioned, in coordination with the county transportation commissions and implementing agencies. And this FTIP approval process, as you may know, can take anywhere from a few weeks up to a few months. Following FTIP approval, implementing agencies will need to work directly with their Caltrans local assistance district to go through the obligation process. And the length of this process really depends on the phase of work that the funds are being requested for, but minimally agencies can expect this timeframe to take 3 months or more. Once the funds have been obligated or authorized, then the implementing agency may start work and incur eligible expenses. And those expenses are then invoiced to Caltrans local assistance for reimbursement. So as you can tell, the federal funding process does take time and requires many complicated steps. So this is something that we really want to make sure that potential applicants consider when deciding whether to apply for these federal aid funds. So at this time, we'll put up the second poll question. And that is, which agency manages obligations and reimbursement requests? Okay, awesome. Yeah, SCAG does not participate directly in the obligation or the reimbursement process. So all forms and submittals must go through Caltrans local assistance, and they're subject to Caltrans and federal aid requirements. Before going into specifics on the call for projects, we have here 3 questions that are intended to, again, guide determination of whether or not someone who's interested will decide to apply for these federal aid funds. First, if the agency or organization is an eligible applicant, if the project activities are eligible. We are not able to make an exhaustive list of everything that's eligible or not eligible. So today we're going to be sharing high-level descriptions of eligibility, and we'll also include some additional references in some of the following slides. And then the last one here, does your agency have the technical capacity to meet the program requirements so that it is managing and delivering a federal aid project? In general, eligible applicants include cities and counties in the SCAG region, transit agencies, federally recognized tribal governments, and county transportation commissions. While federal aid master agreements are not required to apply for funding, the funds cannot be programmed or accessed without an executed master agreement with Caltrans. So this process in itself may take a few months at minimum. If the applicant has received federal transportation funds in the past, this may be an indicator that they already have a federal aid master agreement in place. And for transit projects that are intending to transfer their STBG or CMAQ funding to the Federal Transit Administration, this requirement would not apply, but these applicants would need to coordinate with their respective county transportation commission on roles and responsibilities of direct and subrecipients related to FTA transfer procedures. And we do have a couple of links on this slide too related to master agreements. Generally, STBG funding is considered to be the most flexible in terms of eligible activities. So it can be used to support preservation and improvements to the conditions of highways, bridges, public roads, pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, and transit capital projects. For STBG funds, the projects must be located on a roadway that meets a minimum functional classification. So, specifically, projects that are located on a local road or rural minor collector would generally not be eligible. And we do have a resource linked here too. This is to Caltrans' functional classification website that is a GIS data viewer that allows you to check what the functional classification of a roadway is if there's one that may be included in your scope of work. The CMAQ program was established to fund transportation projects and programs that contribute to the reduction of criteria air pollutants. This program requires that an emissions benefits calculation analysis is submitted alongside the application. So we will be sharing more about the tools that are available for this requirement in one of the later slides. And we've also included on this slide some examples of commonly ineligible projects or activities under the CMAQ program. So that would include routine maintenance projects, landscaping, recreational trails that don't have a transportation use, and ADA retrofits. As mentioned earlier, these are federal funds being made available through this program. We really do want to provide reminders about the technical capacity that's required to manage federally funded projects. So we've compiled a fairly comprehensive list of the key federal requirements for your consideration. All administration for authorizations to start work and process invoices again go through Caltrans Local Assistance and must follow procedures outlined in the Local Assistance Procedures Manual, or LAPM. So if you're not already familiar with this document, this is a great place to start, as it does take you through the requirements that are specific to each phase of work. We won't read everything that's listed on here, but federal projects, they must comply with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, for environmental assessments. In some cases, these might require additional technical studies and securing permits. Also, federal labor regulations will apply, so that would be related to minimum wage and DBE participation. Risk assessment and management plans should also be in place to mitigate potential issues, and strict quality control and assurance measures are also required. Federal funds may also come with additional design standards. There's also a federal process for compliant right-of-way acquisition, and there's also federal requirements for consultant selection. So this is kind of one of the areas that we see most commonly overlooked and being not in compliance is advertising or awarding a contract too soon before the work has been authorized. Also, federal funding is not guaranteed to cover cost increases, so cost estimates that are included should be up to date and also escalated to year of expenditure with a reasonable contingency amount included. Federal funds also require a minimum local match contribution on eligible costs, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a later slide. And we also do have a resource page that's going to be at the end of the presentation that will link more information on some of these areas and also a link to the LAPM. We do realize that this might be a review for some of the more experienced project managers, but we really do want to share this with new project sponsors so that they have a clear idea of all of the federal funding requirements. So that said, if you're coming this far and have confidence in project eligibility and technical capacity for project delivery, we're going to be moving into program specifics for this upcoming call for projects. And for this section, I will pass it on to Anna.
Thanks, Denise. Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Eichelberger. I'm an intern here at SCAG, and I will be speaking to you about non-SCAG selected projects in the 2025 FTIP. As we've mentioned previously, as of July 2023, SCAG has assumed the responsibility for the STBG and CMAQ project selection, which was the result of a federal corrective action. In order to comply with this federal corrective action, any project that is programmed with STBG or CMAQ funding after December 2026 will need to be SCAG selected. And SCAG selection is defined as either awarded or on the contingency list from our previous call for projects in June 2024, or it's defined as awarded or on the contingency list in this upcoming call process. Projects that have not obligated their STBG or CMAQ funding and do not meet the SCAG selected criteria will not be allowed to have STBG or CMAQ funds programmed in the 2027 FTIP. If a project has not obligated its funds and has not been SCAG selected by this deadline, its funding will be considered lapsed, meaning the unclaimed funds will become available for reprogramming to other SCAG selected projects. However, projects that were programmed in earlier federal fiscal years and no longer require new obligations will be grandfathered into the system. These projects will not need to go through a selection process again unless additional funding is needed. SCAG encourages projects on the contingency list from the last call to reapply in this call in order to strengthen their application and secure funding. And if you have any additional questions regarding the status of your project, please reach out to SCAG staff. This call for projects will make a combined $1.2 billion in STBG and CMAQ funding available. The years for funding availability are federal fiscal year 2026 and 27 and federal fiscal years 2027 to 2028. As shared earlier, there's a minimum match requirement of 11.47%. The match requirement is dependent on project type, and certain project types, such as tolling project or toll lanes, require a higher match percentage of 20%. This match requirement can be met with either cash match, or in other words, other non-federal funding, or toll credits. Toll credits are managed at the state level and are subject to availability. If you're requesting toll credits, project sponsors should be prepared to provide a cash match in the event toll credits are not available or approved by Caltrans. SCAG does not have the ability to provide matching funds or replacement funds. So, to reiterate, this program is distributed through reimbursement, meaning that awarded agencies must have sufficient cash flow to front the project costs and have the technical and administrative capacity to prepare invoices for eligible costs that can be processed for reimbursement. This schedule is also available on the program webpage. The program guidelines were approved by the SCAG Regional Council on March 6th, and these are also available on the program webpage now. The application portal will go live on March 31st with an application due date on May 16th at 5 p.m. We will also share more about office hours in a later slide. Those will also be available primarily in April. And the CTC prioritization deadline of August 1st is only applicable to county transportation commissions. Following that will be the application evaluation period, and SCAG anticipates presenting award recommendations to the SCAG Regional Council by the end of calendar year 2025. For awarded projects, coordination on the FTIP programming will follow the awards. And now we're going to have another quick poll question. All right, when are the applications due? Okay, it seems like most of you got it right. It would, yes, it's going to be on May 16th at 5 p.m. Great, now I'm going to be handing it over to Heidi.
All right. Okay, so the evaluation criteria and rubric. So here's the program scoring rubric. We will go into more detail on each of these scoring criteria, but just want to note that the air quality improvements and cost effectiveness criteria will only be evaluated for CMAQ eligible applications. CMAQ projects can score up to 110 total points, and STBG projects can score up to 100 total points. The CTC prioritization criteria is based on a ranking that each county transportation commission assigns to project applications within their county. The county transportation commissions are required to develop a framework for how these projects are prioritized within their county. Each application will receive a ranking of either highly recommended, recommended, contingency list, or not recommended. These rankings will be translated to a score of up to 50 points as part of SCAG's evaluation process. Since each framework for prioritizing projects will vary from county to county, we won't be going into detail in each county's priorities. However, the commissions must minimally incorporate eligibility, county priorities, community stakeholder development, and deliverability and readiness within their evaluation. Each prioritization framework will be made available on the Commission's website, and some county transportation commissions will require supplemental questions to be answered within your application. For questions or additional information regarding the CTC prioritization framework and supplemental questions, please contact the appropriate CTC staff member. We have them all listed on our SCAG program webpage for your reference. The second evaluation criteria is called regional priorities, which are based off of SCAG's regional priorities outlined in our Connect SoCal 2024, as well as our SCAG presidential goals and objectives. Each Tier 1 priority category is outlined on this slide. The project types that fall within these Tier 1 categories will receive the maximum 20 points available. Appendix B of the guidelines offers examples of project types that may fall into each of these categories, but it is not an exhaustive list. So we realize that there may be some nuances where project components are combined or may fall under more than one category. We recommend selecting the category that aligns most with your primary project type. If you're not sure where your project fits, please reach out to SCAG staff and we can provide clarification. The Tier 2 regional priorities categories are on this slide will receive 10 of the possible 20 points. Additionally, Tier 2 projects may receive an additional 5 points, so up to 15 points total, if the applicant can demonstrate a systems approach to identifying and managing needs. Examples of this include a transportation-related natural lands preservation plan, a county or city pavement management plan or program, and/or a county or city complete streets plan or program. And as a note, the complete streets category on this slide includes ATP type projects. Within this call, there's a greater focus on federal performance management areas, which comprise up to 20 points of the total scoring rubric. In short, federal performance management areas are a federally established set of national transportation performance measures that correspond to federal transportation planning goals. Typically, these are set at state and regional levels where they are incorporated within each regional transportation plan. The application questions are used to assess progress being made relative to each of the areas and associated measures. Application questions are structured to collect information about the potential impact that individual projects could have on these federal performance management areas, which are outlined on the slide. Applicants may select which federal performance management areas their project best aligns with and will have the opportunity to provide general responses as well as specific data that supports the project's ability to improve these areas. That said, applications will be considered more competitive if they are able to demonstrate a data-based improvement rather than a general response. In the same way, projects that demonstrate a significant improvement to at least one area will be considered more competitive. More information is available in Appendix C of our program guidelines. The Community Economic Development Benefits Evaluation Criteria provides up to 10 possible points of the application's total score. Applicants will review a list of 10 strategies that have been determined to provide community economic development benefits and identify which of these are incorporated into the scope of the proposed project. These strategies are identified in Appendix D of our program guidelines. Some of these strategies are specifically targeted to the geographic areas referred to as areas of persistent poverty and historically disadvantaged communities. The Build Grant project location verification mapping tool is provided as a reference to identify these geographic areas. Applicants will need to provide a supplemental narrative demonstrating how their project employs or incorporates the strategies that have been selected in the application. Projects that capture 4 or more of the identified benefits will receive the full 10 points for the scoring criteria. Projects that include 1 to 3 strategies will receive 5 out of the 10 possible points. As mentioned, CMAQ eligible projects have the ability to capture up to 10 additional points in this air quality improvements and cost effectiveness scoring criteria. 8 of the 10 points will be awarded by demonstrating cost effectiveness relative to similar projects. Since the cost effectiveness calculation uses a total of annual emissions reductions, we are also requesting documentation of the emissions data. This data will not be scored directly, but will be used as context on the cost effectiveness responses provided. The FHWA CMAQ toolkit will be the required methodology. There are 18 tools available within this toolkit, so we will only accept a different methodology if the proposed project type isn't captured by one of these available tools. Additionally, federal guidance requires that particulate matter 2.5 reducing projects be prioritized for CMAQ funding. Therefore, an additional 2 out of the 10 points will be awarded to the top 50% of PM 2.5 reducing projects. Overall, the air quality improvement benefits and cost effectiveness responses are optional, but it does present an opportunity to receive additional points. If you are struggling with whether or not to complete this section or how to complete it, please reach out to your respective County Transportation Commission staff, as some may have resources or technical assistance available, or you can contact SCAG staff. Please note that any project that is selected for CMAQ funding will be required to complete this air quality analysis in order for the funds to be programmed in the FTIP. So while this requirement is optional for the application, if you are awarded CMAQ funds, it will become required. So we're going to put up our next poll question. And this one is true or false. If the FHWA emissions calculator tool does not work for my project, other methodologies will be accepted. True or false? All right, yes, the correct answer is true. We will accept other methodologies if one of the 18 tools provided by the FHWA CMAQ toolkit does not work for your project. So shown on this slide is the FHWA cost effectiveness calculation, which will be required to respond to this criteria. So the air quality improvements input that you see within this calculation will be derived from the air quality benefits analysis that you will perform, which we mentioned in the previous slide. The other components include the total project cost and the project lifetime in years. All right, so we're going to take a quick 3-minute break in order to get set up for our application demo. So on the screen, you should see the 3-minute timer. So we will come back in 3 minutes with our application demo.
All right, good morning, everyone. We are going to come back together in about 1 minute. So take that minute to get ready for our demo. I'm going to be sharing my screen to show the application website. All right, so this is the website that you will go to when you click the link to the application. So this is what you'll see. The first time that you log in, you will need to sign up and create an account. So you will go here to sign up, fill in your contact information. For organization, you'll select your agency, and then it will auto-populate the county. So you'll click the county for requested plans. For requested access level, this will be sponsor. And requested project access will be my organization's projects. Additionally, to ensure appropriate access, we will require that eligible agencies that require access to their projects for consultants to provide written notice, which can be done via email to scagstaff@ftip@scag.ca.gov. So once you've completed this, you'll click Create an Account. The website has not yet launched. It will be launching on the 31st, so I'm going to go back to our test site to give you all a demonstration of what the website will look like. All right, so once you are logged in, you will go to the top right corner to click New Project. For plan cycle, I had previously selected a county, so you will find your county here. Auto-populated, and then plan revision, that will auto-populate to 2025 project solicitation. And then you'll click continue. For ID, this will be auto-generated, so you can leave this blank. Title will be a brief descriptive title for the project. For the project type, you will select one from the drop-down menu. And a quick reference for this, project type refers to one of the 8 primary program categories that is identified in the STBG CMAQ program guidelines in the eligible projects section. Additionally, Appendix B includes examples of projects that may fall into each of these categories. So please refer to the federal guidance on eligible activities linked in the guidelines to select your project type. Next, you'll select your lead agency, and then your county will be here, and then CTC, and then a brief description of the project. So for today, I'll just click test for the title and the description and click create project. So once you are in the project application, you'll notice that there are 6 tabs at the top, which have different information that you'll go through. The primary tabs that you will need for the application are programming, attachments, and project questions, and we'll be going through IDs as well. So first, for the project information, this should be auto-populated from what you just entered on the previous page. You can leave municipality blank. And then next is some general information for the applying agency for the sponsor. And you'll put in primary point of contact, secondary point of contact, and then phases of work requested, which will be a drop-down menu, and you can click all that apply. Total funding request. And then if your agency does have a Caltrans master agreement number, you can put it here. If not, you can select NA. This is a required field, so if you do not have one, you'll need to click NA to be able to submit. Next is the scope and location. This is a short answer, and this is an opportunity to describe the existing conditions, the purpose, the needs of the project, and a concise scope of work. Next is some additional location information that will be available via drop-down menu. So you'll click your applicable air basins and various districts, and the districts will auto-populate based off of the county that you selected above. If your district is not listed in the list, please email ftip@scag.ca.gov and we can have it added. Next, for location, you will go ahead and click Add New Location. And you'll indicate the system as local highway, state highway. Transit projects are not required to fill out this section. So you'll click in a system, and then this is where you can add the functional classification of the roadway. Please refer to the California Road System dataset linked in the application guidebook for more information about what your roadways are classified as currently. If more than one roadway is included in the project location, you can select one and then click Add New Location, and then you can select additional roadways, as many as applicable you can select in this location field. Next is the programming information. This is where you will provide complete funding information for all phases of the project, including prior phases in the table. So to add funding, you'll click Add Row here. And it's going to ask for fiscal year, fund type, which has a drop-down menu that I'm going to go into briefly in a moment, and then the phases of work. So funds identified should be committed. Committed funds for the purpose of this application are funds that have been approved to be programmed to the identified project by the agency administering the funding. Funds that have been requested through other discretionary programs where the project has not been identified to receive an award are not considered committed funds. For uncommitted funds, when you're using the fund type, please use the remaining funding needed from the drop-down list. And when you're adding funding, you can add as many rows as needed by clicking the Add Row for each additional fund. For existing federal aid projects, and especially projects that have previously received STBG or CMAQ funds, please be sure to distinguish between previously or currently programmed funds and the new funding request. So you can note that there are different selections here in the drop-down menu. For currently programmed, this is in a approved 2025 FTIP amendment. This tool also has a match calculator to input requested amounts and to determine what the matches would be. All federal funds, STBG and CMAQ, must include a minimum of 11.47 match in non-federal funds. There is also a narrative text box to share any additional information about your funding plan. If the project has an existing PPR or project programming request form or FTIP sheet, you may provide it in attachment in the Documents tab, which I will go through in the Attachments tab up above, which I'll go through a little bit later. There is a drop-down box below to ask about toll credits. Due to limited availability of toll credits, project applicants should be prepared to provide a local match source in the event toll credits are not available for STBG and CMAQ funds. Tolling projects require 20% local match, and toll credits are managed by Caltrans at the state level. So you can click yes or no to the toll credit question. Next is ineligible costs. So please indicate below if there are any known STBG or CMAQ ineligible costs included in the scope of work for the proposed project. So you can select from the drop-down menu if any of the project types or fund sources are ineligible, and you'll provide some supplemental information in the box for any information about that. And there are also resources in the application guidebook that go into more detail on eligibility and project types and list some common ineligible project types. So you can use that as a resource to anticipate any ineligible costs. There's also a box to show the ability to address cost increases. So just describing the sponsor's ability to address any cost increases outside of this program. Next is the project schedule and readiness. So this is a calendar option. You'll be able to click into the dates here, and you're going to complete the draft schedule for the proposed project to the best of your knowledge. And for plans, you only fill in the planning dates. Next is the environmental document. So please provide the information for the anticipated or actual environmental document type required for the project. You should only fill out one of the two options, so NEPA or the joint CEQA-NEPA rows. Next is some questions on project readiness. These are short answer questions about project readiness and deliverability for the project. Next is air quality improvements. This is for CMAQ eligible projects only. You're going to click to add row to add the air quality data. Please provide all data in kg per day, and air quality improvements may be divided by project component at the applicant's discretion. Please contact your respective county transportation commission for support in completing this section if needed. And finally, the last section we're going to be completing on this programming tab is the change reason. So you will select the applicable response. For new project, this is projects that have not received STBG or CMAQ funds before. For project change, this is an existing project that has STBG or CMAQ funds. This could include projects from the prior call or projects that have not been SCAG selected. If selected, there will be an additional dropdown. So you can select additional reasons for the project change. So you can select all that apply. And then an opportunity to share more information about the change reason. So this narrative box is required. So if you selected new project, please enter the amount of the STBG CMAQ requested. If you selected project changed, please use the space to add additional context to the selected checkbox. The narrative here may also include any supplemental information to provide context on the project funding if needed. And this is a required field. And you can disregard the prior project revision comparison. This is not applicable to this applications. So that's the programming tab. Next, you're going to go up and navigate through the various other tabs. Map, this feature will not be used for the current application submittal. Please disregard. Project maps can be uploaded as attachments through the attachments tab. Next is the ID tab. IDs, please enter any IDs if applicable for existing RTP, FTIP, and federal project IDs. RTP refers to the Regional Transportation Plan or Connect SoCal. FTIP refers to the Federal Transportation Improvement Program. And for both the RTP and FTIP IDs, these links are linked to the application guidebook and can be found on the SCAG website. The federal project ID, which is the number assigned by Caltrans local assistance during the obligation process. So if you have these ID numbers, please add them here by clicking Add ID. Next is the Attachments tab. Here's where you can upload supporting documentation to the project application as indicated throughout the application. So please name the files to indicate attachment type, and you'll click Select Files to upload. The revisions history is not applicable to this application submittal, so please disregard at this time. And then finally is the project questions. So these are additional questions regarding your project, so we'll go through each of these different categories now. The regional priority section will be evaluated based on the project's program category selected in the project type field on the programming tab. Please also refer to Appendix D, project Appendix B, project examples by category of the program guidelines for additional information on which program categories belong to Tier 1 or Tier 2 regional priorities. For this first question, if the project has been identified as part of a Tier 1 regional priority, please indicate NA in this narrative box. If the project has been identified as part of a Tier 2 regional priorities program category, please indicate and describe if there is an existing systems approach in place to manage these needs. This is a short answer. These next questions are going to be for the federal performance management areas. First, you're going to indicate any applicable performance management areas in the drop-down box. And then next, you are going to go through each of these different performance management areas and indicate either high, medium, low, or NA not applicable impact levels. Please read each section carefully to determine which of the subsequent questions are applicable based off your responses. For each of these questions, there is additional resources of applicable links to reference when you're answering these questions. So be sure to click on any of the links available. And each of the subsequent questions follow the same format of initially asking questions of high, medium, low, or NA, and then subsequent questions. So we'll scroll through these. All right, and next is the community economic development benefits questions. So for the first question, you're going to select the applicable drop-down option for the project location. Please reference the build map, which is linked in the application, for more information about location. And it's this link right here. So next is a short answer box to explain if indicated by your previous answer. So this is only if applicable. For the project benefits, there is a drop-down list where you can check all that apply. And then question 4, please describe how the project supports the benefits identified in the previous question. You can also reference Appendix D, Community Economic Development Benefits of the Program Guidelines. Next is the air quality improvement and cost effectiveness for CMAQ eligible projects only. So the first question is just to confirm that you completed the air quality improvement section on the programming tab. And there are all of the links referenced below to complete that. If electing to provide co-benefits for CO2, please provide in MT per day and in kg per day, and you can share in these fields below. These fields are optional. And then lastly, you'll calculate the cost effectiveness of the proposed project using the FHWA calculation referenced here. And more information is provided in the links and in the guidebooks. This is a short answer box, so you can use this box to show your work in any way that would be helpful to you or for the application. You can show your work of the application or the calculation in the application, or you can just type the final number. Use this box however you would like to convey your response to this question. Next is the County Transportation Commission supplemental questions. So it's going to ask you to confirm that the supplemental questions were completed if applicable. Not all of the counties have supplemental questions. Once this website goes live, there will be links next to each of the counties that will take you to the applicable questions if there are questions for your county. And there may be varying instructions of how you will submit those questions, and that will be in the link provided. So if you do need to attach the questions to this application, you can do that in the attachments tab, but you'll follow the link from your CTC to determine what steps you need to take for this section. And then this is just going to ask, did you complete yes or no. Next is this attachment section. This is just to confirm the selection of all the attachment types that have been included in the attachment tab. So you will click any of the boxes applicable for attachments. Please note that the list displayed is only inclusive of attachment types and will not summarize the list of actual attachments you've provided in the attachments tab. And other attachments in addition to the list of attachments in the drop-down menu may still be uploaded to the attachment tab and should be clearly labeled. Lastly is the certification and assurances. So please read through the assurances and select yes to affirm the general statements shown. And then anytime you want to pause working on the application and you want to come back later and return to what you've worked on, you can click Save Changes. And once all of the missing requirements have been completed, you will be able to also see a Submit button next to Save Changes. If you want to see all of the missing requirements that have not yet been completed, you can click that in the upper left corner, and it's going to list all of the requirements that have not yet been completed. So you'll be able to see that list here. And one note on returning to the application, when you come back into the application, it will look like this and you won't be able to directly click into anything yet. You'll need to go in and click Edit to get back to entering into the application. So that concludes the demo of the website. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and AV, if we could pull up the PowerPoint, we will close out our presentation for the day. Thank you. Okay, so here are a list of some more opportunities to ask questions and learn more about the application process. So for SCAG office hours, we have a sign up link available, and I think that's in the chat as well, on our program website. These office hours are first come, first served, and it's an opportunity for project-specific support and questions. These will be 25-minute sessions available every Monday and Tuesday in April, and depending on demand, we may add more availability. Additionally, some county transportation commissions may also be offering similar technical assistance, so please check their program websites and reach out to your CTC as well. We also have some county-specific workshops and activities available throughout March. The county-specific workshops will provide a condensed version of today's presentation, as well as an overview of the county prioritization framework presented by County Transportation Commission staff. So we have one more poll question. And as we're pulling this up, our question is, where can I go if I have questions about the application? All right, so yes, the answer is all of the above or any of the options listed here. There are many resources available to you throughout the application period, so please utilize these resources as you navigate this process. Next is a list of some references and resources. We will be posting this PowerPoint, so you will be able to click the links directly in this PowerPoint. A lot of these links are also referenced throughout the application guidebook, as well as some in the application itself. So we included some of the links of references used during today's presentation here, and you'll be able to click through them as well. Next is some information about some upcoming trainings through the California Local Technical Assistance Program, or LTAP. So these LTAP centers enable agencies to increase their transportation expertise at the local level by providing them access to training and technical resources prepared at the national level. Most will have a course fee with a special discounted public agency rate, and the quarterly Caltrans local assistance days are free. So here's just a list of the upcoming training schedule. And at this point, we are going to open up the discussion for some Q&A. As a reminder, we will not be responding to project-specific eligibility questions as part of the Q&A. For those, please reach out via email or feel free to schedule office hours with the team. You can put some questions in the chat or use the raise hand feature, but we're here to answer any questions.
I think we can probably just verbally answer a couple of these since I can speak faster than I can type. There's a question from Liz about, is this program impacted by the Department of Transportation current freeze on all discretionary grant programs? This is a formula program. It's not a discretionary grant program, so it's not directly affected. And I believe we provided the link to the office hours. I think that's all the open questions that I'm seeing right now. If we missed one of yours in the chat, you can either raise your hand or provide in the chat. And I think I see one hand up. David Bleekman. Looks like you might even be unmuted.
All right. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I don't know that we can see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm David Blechman. I'm a professor at Cal State LA. And it's an unusual question. And I was wondering, I saw the program, so I just decided to ask a question and attend this meeting. We would like to introduce autonomous shuttles on campus as a demonstration and support of other transportation agencies to test their autonomous shuttles in the future. We are central in Los Angeles. I think it's well positioned for Olympic Games as well.
Hey, David, can I stop you right there? If you want to talk about project-specific questions, let's take that offline. Please sign up for one of the office hours. We're hoping to answer more general questions so that everyone can benefit from both your question and the responses. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I see Jonathan had a question on there about the full application being available for us to go through on our own. All of the questions are in the program guidelines. As indicated in one of the other responses, we are looking at trying to create a Word version for those of you who may be interested in trying to work on this offline, but just wanted to be hyper clear on this. Just like when you do a job application and it says, a resume isn't sufficient. And if you just submit a resume, you're not going to be considered. Same here. If you do the Word version and you just attach that, does not suffice. So just wanted to be crystal clear on that. If when we have that Word version, we will post it on the website that has been posted a number of times. Thanks. And then next question, Ava. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. Is there no limit to the amount that we can request in our application? Correct. Additionally, is it possible? Sorry, I'm seeing more questions come in, so you just jumped. In addition, is it possible that we may be approved for the full requested amount and only receive partial funding? Yes. Okay. So for the first one, we don't have a ceiling on the request amount. I think you may, considering that these are federal funds, although we don't have a floor on what we're saying that you should apply for or a minimum amount, you should be cognizant that these are federal dollars and have the appropriate minimum amount for that. And then, yes, depending on how you rank and how much funding is available, there may be opportunities for partial funding. So we likely, if we're in that situation, and we will likely reach out to you and try to figure out, do you have a viable project with some partial funding amount? Our aim is not to kind of artificially split the funding just to meet the marks. We want to have something that's actually viable and deliverable. Okay, next question. Are projects already in construction eligible for this funding? Yes, generally, I would say, I think the caveat would be that they would have to be federally eligible. And so let's take that question offline or reach out for office hours on the specifics there. Because if it's not a federally eligible project, that would be a significant problem. I think the next question on the min max might have been already answered. Can a local agency apply for multiple options to see which can be? No. You have to submit a clear application. We can't do the work for you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at this question. Can a local agency apply for multiple options to see which would potentially score higher? If so, can each option require its own? So maybe the last part of the question, if you're trying a shotgun approach, I guess you could do that. But like each one needs to be a very clear project and be eligible. Go ahead, Shay.
Yeah, and I would just add that you're going to put the funding requested in that funding box that we talked about in the application demo, and there is a narrative box. So if there is more information you want to provide about flexibility of funding sources, you can put that in the narrative box.
And then Evelyn looks like has a question about if the project is, I guess, highway bridge program funded and funds are not programmed until a future year. Could that limit the award? Are you trying to replace the highway bridge program funds, or is there an overall funding shortfall? If there's a funding shortfall, that's what you should be applying for, not to essentially, okay, so it looks like you replied to that. Yeah, so as indicated, Shay talked through the specifics about how you identify are the funds committed and current funds versus future. So essentially follow that logic. And if you have specific questions, please sign up for office hours and then we can talk about the specifics on your project. Okay, Matthew, which staff will score the application? Wasn't sure if it was the CTC exclusively. Okay, so hopefully you got this overall. So it's a little bit of a two-stage process. And when we went through the scoring, there's you do your applications, you submit them, and then it gets the county prioritization. That's where the county transportation commissions and that link to their prioritization framework is important. So you should be looking at that to see how do you get kind of the maximum prioritization from your county transportation commission. After that, then it's basically handed off to SCAG, and then SCAG does the evaluation. So it's essentially like a two-part evaluation. So County Transportation Commission does one, we get their prioritization, and then we evaluate all of the projects. Hopefully that's clear. And it looks like the next one was already answered.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, as Shay mentioned in the programming table, you can put, you can request a combination of both CMAQ and STBG, particularly if there are components of your project that you know are not eligible for, let's say, CMAQ, and you would like to fund those with STBG instead, that is a possibility. You'll just have to make make it very clear in your programming table in the application exactly what you're requesting for and your local match components for both of the projects. If your project is eligible for both the CMAQ and STBG and you're applying for both, then you would obviously want to consider eligibility for both of the fund sources. So for CMAQ, making sure that it is reducing emissions, and for STBG, that it meets that location criteria regarding the functional classification of the road, if it's applicable.
I don't see any other pending questions or raised hands. We're still going to give you a little more time in case someone's like me is not the quickest typer and is taking a moment, or if you want to raise your hand with a question. Okay, I see a question about can the 11.47% match be split with both state and local funds? Yes, as long as they're not federal transportation dollars. Federal transportation dollars cannot be a source of non-federal match. There's probably a nuance to that too, depending on the state dollars. If state dollars needed a separate match, your match can't do double duty. I mean, if you're required from a state program for those state dollars, and you're trying to double count that local dollars, that could be problematic. I don't know the specifics there. If you want to talk about the specifics there, we can take that offline. Great. I think since I'm not seeing any others, we'll probably give it another minute so that we're not cutting anybody off. But if you have a burning question, either type it or please raise your hand.
I did just quickly want to circle back on for projects that are already in construction being eligible for funding. There is a potential if your project is already federalized, but just please note that these are federal funds. And typically, if you're applying for construction funding, you have to get federal authorization before you award a contract and before you start the work. Otherwise, any activity that happens prior to that, or if your contract was already awarded prior to your federal authorization, it is not eligible to be those expenses are not eligible for reimbursement. So you just want to make sure that you're following the correct steps depending on the phase of work that you are applying for.
Just also share out very quickly that we'll also be planning on consolidating some of the general questions that we've received through the workshop into a frequently asked questions document to be posted on the program webpage.
Okay, so I think at this time we'll probably do a last call for questions because we're not seeing any come through. And please take advantage of the office hours, or if you have a specific question, you can also shoot an email to any of the individuals that you see linked here, as well as the general FTIP email address. Thank you.
We'll give it one more minute. So up until 11:15 to see, to take any additional questions. If not, we'll close out at that time. So one more minute. If you have a question, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. All right. Looks like there are no other questions. So thank you all for coming. As Warren mentioned, you can contact us at any of the email addresses listed here, or you can schedule an office hours appointment with us. Thank you again, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.